Hello bibliophiles, my name is Tanvi Dikshit. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. In today's video, I am going to be reviewing Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. So to be honest with this book, I'm kind of getting back into the genre of science fiction. Like when I picked this up, I realized for just how long I have not read a science fiction book. Like it's been years. I can't even remember when was the last science fiction book I read. So yeah, this was a nice comeback for me in terms of reading the science fiction genre. Before I get into the review, let me tell you a little bit about the author. The author for Dark Matter, of course, is Blake Crouch. Blake Crouch is an American author. He's 46 years old. He's actually best known for his Wayward Pines trilogy, and then Dark Matter, which released I think in the year 2016, also went on to become extremely popular. His other novel, Recursion, which is also a sci-fi novel, also has become hugely popular. I haven't read it yet. I plan to read it after this. Dark Matter has also been adapted into an Apple TV show, which came out, I think, this year, May 2024. So if you're into sci-fi shows, you can definitely watch that as well. Okay, now let's start by talking about the novel. Dark Matter is 398 pages long, and it is a super easy read. Like, it just flows. It is extremely fast paced. Like, there is not a single moment when you can put the novel down. Like, I think if I had the time, I would finish this novel in one day. I think I must have finished it right now even in 3-4 days, considering I was traveling and working. I still managed to finish it in like 3-4 days. So you can see how fast-paced and riveting it is. So in terms of the way it's been written, extremely fast-paced, extremely riveting, extremely engaging. Like you literally will not feel like putting it down for a second. You just want to go, you're just like telling yourself, okay, one more chapter and I'll sleep. Okay, another chapter and I'll sleep. You know, it's one of those which I love, which I absolutely love. Dark Matter narrates the story of our protagonist. His name is Jason Dessen. Now, Jason Dessen is this professor, lives with his family, has a wife called Daniela who he really loves, has a son called Charlie. He is not extremely successful, has a decent, well-paying job, but he kind of had a lot of potential, which he did not really explore. So somewhere in his mind, he feels this regret that what if, rather than having a family, I would have focused more on my career as a physics researcher. Would my life have been different? One evening when he's out for drinks with his friends, he gets abducted. His abductor is wearing a mask and he takes him to this deserted place and he injects him with some drug. And the next thing you know, Jason wakes up in a place which feels really unfamiliar to him. He wakes up in this sort of a research lab, a very high-end research lab sort of a facility, where everybody else seems to know him, but he has never met any of these people. So when he wakes up, there's a whole group of people who are congratulating him, who are like, oh my God, Jason, you made it back, da da da. And Jason has no idea who any of these people are. And he's extremely confused because he's gone through this trauma and he doesn't remember what really happened with him and all of that. Eventually, as the story unfolds, you realize that Dark Matter is based on the concept of a multiverse. I'm pretty sure if you follow your Marvel superhero movies or whatever, you're very well aware of the idea of a multiverse, that the reality that we see is not the only existing reality. Like for me as Tanvi, maybe there are multiple infinite other versions of me which are existing in different parallel universes, and these versions that have split off every time I make a choice. So basically the choices that I make are defining my life trajectory, and depending on the choices that I make, I simultaneously coexist in multiple universes as multiple versions of myself. So the book really plays around in the area of string theory, of quantum mechanics, that how if two macro objects are superimposed, you can actually travel from one universe to another. It's a very common concept in sci-fi movies and shows and books and all of that. But I love the concept. I love the idea. I love to think about this idea also. So the concept is actually really nice. So yes, getting back to the story, our Jason wakes up in this completely new universe where he has no idea what is going on. So he tries to figure that out. So he escapes and then he goes, he tries to find Daniela. He tries to just make sense of what is happening. He goes to his old house and all of that. And as he goes on doing all of these things, he realizes that the world that he's entered is not really his world. It's very similar to, you know, what he knew back in the day, but the world that he's living in right now is totally different. For example, in this world that Jason has now entered, Jason and Daniela never got married. Jason, in fact, has become an award-winning physics researcher who has come up with a lot of innovative ideas and inventions. Daniela, on the other hand, has become an extremely famous artist. So for our Jason, that moment when he made the choice of starting a family with Daniela, that is when the other Jason, let's call him Jason 2, kind of branched off, and he instead made a choice not to be with Daniela and became a successful scientist instead. Eventually, Jason realizes that Jason 2, his abductor, basically hatched this plan because he regretted not choosing Daniela. And eventually, as time passes, our hero Jason realizes that Jason 2, whose world he's now come into, had actually designed a box. And using a particular drug, you can enter this box that kind of becomes a pathway, a corridor via which you can enter different worlds, different universes. And that is how Jason 2 found our hero Jason 1 and kind of replaced him in the other world and sent Jason, our hero, back to his own world. So obviously Jason freaks out and he wants to go back to his own world. So our hero Jason is helped by Amanda, who is Jason 2's therapist in the other world, and both of them escape into this box with a special drug, and they kind of escape into this corridor that is their gateway to the multiverse. It's this corridor that is lined by infinite doors, and every door is an opening into another universe. So they cross through some insane universes. They go through one universe where there's a pandemic going on, one after a volcanic eruption, a snow-covered universe, a sci-fi futuristic utopian universe. Jason is really desperate to get back to his family, and that's why he's trying to do everything he can to reach his universe. I'm going to be giving you spoilers, guys. I'm sorry. If you haven't read the book and you want to read it, you can stop the video right here because I'm going to spoil the ending for you. Amanda eventually ends up leaving Jason at one point, after which he's on this journey by himself. He finally ends up in his real world where he realizes that Jason 2 has replaced him and has been living with Daniela and Charlie. He finds a way, a pretty smart way, to actually reach Daniela and let her know, prove to her that he's actually the real Jason. After having escaped with Daniela and Charlie successfully, he realizes that there is literally like a convoy of Jasons. There are multiple, maybe close to 40 or 50 different Jasons, versions of himself, that have entered into his universe, and all of them are kind of competing to live this life with his Daniela and his Charlie. And that is where shit gets really complicated and really over the top. Coming to my thoughts on the book, like I said in the beginning, this is exactly what a sci-fi book should be. It is gripping, it is thrilling, it actually plays with the ideas of like string theory, quantum mechanics, all of these concepts, the multiverse, and you don't have to be very knowledgeable in physics to actually understand it. Like, he's actually done a pretty great job of sort of dumbing down the concepts for people who don't really understand physics that well, so that you're not really struggling to understand what's happening. It's been explained in a very, very easy language that any lay reader can understand, which is a big, big plus according to me. Sometimes science fiction based on like quantum mechanics or string theory can come across as really silly and juvenile, but this book actually does a pretty fabulous job of kind of integrating quantum mechanics into our protagonist's story. Coming to the not so great parts of it, at one point when Jason is exploring all of these parallel universes, I kind of got really like, it was just way too much and it was not believable, and none of it was like making sense, like especially when he goes into this universe where there's a plague pandemic going on, and just everything that happens in that world is so horrifying and it's so disappointing. It does not make any sense. Like, he tries to go close to Daniela in that world who's infected severely with some disease, and like just there's just so many things which are like they don't really add up and they don't really make any sense. So yeah, that was a little bit disappointing. Also, while the scientific ideas do not sound silly at all, there is a part towards the end of the novel, the part where I told you multiple versions of Jason coexist in the same world and they're all fighting to be with Daniela. It kind of gets borderline ridiculous, okay? Like, it's just so weird. Like, there is like these 20 different Jasons in the chat room, sort of, and they're all like talking to each other. Like, Jason 1 says something, and Jason 7 says something, and Jason 4 says something, and it's really weird, and it's like, it's very off-putting to even read that. I don't know, I feel like it was so unnecessary. Like, I liked the fight between Jason 1 and Jason 2, but this whole like multiple Jasons coming in, and this last scene where they escape into a different universe while a corridor of Jasons stands there looking at them go, like, that's a little bit much for me. So I kind of really hated that part where so many Jasons just like come into the same world. Yeah, it was really not my thing. But having said that, the first part of the book is absolutely flawless. I have enjoyed the way the whole idea has been spun into a story. The language is beautiful. It is so easy, so free-flowing. Even if you're a non-reader and this is literally the first book you've ever read, you're going to get into it, get engaged into it so quickly. I love that. It's a very, very, very absorbing read, and it's beautifully written. Except for these few like off-putting things, I think if you're looking for a great sci-fi read, it's a pretty good novel. I am going to give it a 7 on 10 simply because the writing style is so beautiful, so easy, so free-flowing. I just love it. I cannot wait to read more books written by Blake Crouch because I love him as a writer. He has also written the screenplay for the Apple TV show. So I'm pretty sure it'll be a well-written show as well, and I hope they improve on certain points in the show, which I don't know. I'll try to watch the show. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be back with the next one. Until then, please don't forget, hit the subscribe button. Happy reading!